Everyone's got an answer. You ask people who the richest man in history was, and they'll start listing names like they're reading from a textbook. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Rockefeller, Mansa Musa, some guy with a gold throne in ancient Mesopotamia. Fine, write them all down. Put every billionaire, every king, every emperor, every conqueror who ever claimed a continent. Line them up. Now throw the list away. Because the answer, the real answer, is someone most people never even thought to put on that list. And here's the thing. The moment I say the name, half of you are going to think this is a religious video. It's not. This is a business video. This is a story about the most sophisticated operation ever built on this planet. An organization with no physical headquarters, no stock ticker, no IPO, no board of directors and a glass tower somewhere. And yet, 2,000 years later, it is still running, still growing, still compounding. Every empire you've ever studied? Gone. Rome? Gone. The British Empire? Fading. The Mongols? The Ottomans? The Pharaohs? All of them gone. This one hasn't missed a day. So before we go any further, if you're new here, drop a like on this video right now. Because what we're about to get into, you're going to want to send this to somebody. Welcome to King's Empire, where we bury the myths, follow the money, and tell you the story behind the story. Business, power, legacy. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about this properly. There's a joke, and I want you to sit with it for a second, that goes like this. King Solomon was rich, but his wealth didn't reach us. Adam and Eve sinned, and that sin reached everyone. Funny, but think about what that actually means. Because when we talk about real wealth, not the number on a Forbes list, but actual, lasting, generational, civilization-altering wealth, the metric changes completely. Forget net worth. Forget assets under management. Ask yourself this instead. Whose decisions are still shaping the world right now? And the answer, whether you're religious or not, whether you believe or not, is Jesus Christ. Now stay with me. Because we're not going to church today. We're going to business school. Let's look at the structure first. 12 core disciples, hand-selected, each one given a specific role, a specific assignment, a specific territory. That's not a following. That's a C-suite. That's an org chart. On top of that, a wider circle of 70, sent out in pairs, with clear instructions to extend the reach of the mission. That's a field team. Any startup founder in Silicon Valley would kill for that kind of early-stage organizational clarity. But it goes deeper than structure. Think about the resource model. On paper, nothing. No property. No treasury. No investors. And yet, every single time a resource was needed, it appeared. Tax money? A fish carried it to shore. A venue for what we now call the Last Supper? Already prepared. Waiting. A mode of transport for one of the most iconic public entries in human history? A brand new animal, never ridden, never touched, standing there like a custom-built Rolls-Royce, ready to go. That is not poverty. That is a man who operates on a completely different relationship with resources than the rest of us. And then, the entry into Jerusalem. People throwing their garments on the ground in front of him. Crowds lining the streets. Branches waving. Everyone watching. Everyone talking. You want to talk about a brand launch? That was a brand launch. He didn't buy the moment. He commanded it. There's a difference. But here's the part that really tells you everything you need to know about the scale of what was happening. Kings were afraid of him. Not annoyed. Not dismissive. Afraid. Herod, one of the most powerful rulers in the ancient world, tried to eliminate him as a baby. Before he'd said a single word in public. Before he'd performed a single miracle. Before he gathered a single follower. You don't send soldiers after a nobody. You only move against someone when you can already feel, in your gut, that they're going to change everything. And here's the scalability piece that honestly still doesn't make sense by normal standards. He fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. I don't care how you interpret that. From a pure operations standpoint, the idea of doing more with less, of multiplying output from minimal input, that is the dream of every business that has ever existed. Every leader chasing scale is chasing exactly that. Now, if you're finding this interesting, and I know you are, subscribe to the channel. We do this every week. Real stories, real analysis, the kind of stuff they don't teach you anywhere else. Because here's where the story gets uncomfortable. We've established the structure, the resource model, the brand power, the reach, the threat level. By every measure, this was an empire in motion. And then, it all came crashing down. Or at least, that's what it looked like. Here's where every great business story has its moment. The moment where everything falls apart. And this one hits different. Because it didn't start with a bad earnings report. It didn't start with a hostile takeover or a scandal on the front page. It started with a kiss. One of the 12, one of the inner circle, one of the men who had been there from the beginning, walked up to him in a garden in the middle of the night. And with a kiss, handed him over to the people who wanted him dead. That's not just betrayal. That's the kind of betrayal that ends movements. And it moved fast after that. Arrested, tried, not by some back alley court, by the Roman Empire, the most powerful legal and military machine the ancient world had ever seen. The kind of institution that didn't make mistakes. The kind that, when it decided you were finished, you were finished. The verdict came back. And it was the worst one possible. Execution. Public. Humiliating. Designed specifically to send a message to anyone watching. The message being, this is what happens to people who threaten the order of things. And the followers? The C-suite? The field team? Scattered. The ones who hadn't run were hiding behind locked doors. Afraid. Confused. The mission, the entire operation, looked like it had been shut down overnight. No headquarters. No leader. No momentum. From the outside, this was over. This was a closed chapter. A footnote. Another would-be movement that ran straight into the wall of Roman power and got crushed like every other one before it. You want to talk about a business collapse? This was the collapse. The founder gone. The team broken. The enemies celebrating. And honestly, if you were a historian sitting in Rome that weekend, writing your notes, you would have closed the file. You would have written, interesting for a moment, but ultimately, nothing. Except, 3 days later, something happened. Something that no legal system could explain. Something that no military force could contain. Something that, to this day, has never been adequately answered by anyone who tried to dismiss it. The tomb was empty. And suddenly, the scattered followers weren't scattered anymore. The people who had been hiding behind locked doors were now standing in public squares, telling anyone who would listen what they had seen, what they knew. These weren't people chasing fame. Most of them would spend the rest of their lives hunted for saying it. Most of them would die for saying it. You don't die for something you made up. And here's the business truth buried inside all of this. Every empire in history that collapsed at the death of its founder. That's the pattern. That's always been the pattern. Alexander the Great dies. The empire fractures the same week. You remove the person at the center, and the whole thing unravels. This one did the opposite. The death didn't end the movement. It launched it. And that is what no business school, no MBA program, no leadership consultant has ever been able to fully explain. Because by every rule we have about how organizations live and die, this shouldn't have survived. But here's the thing about rules. Some things were never playing by them. Let's talk numbers. Because at some point, the story stops being philosophy, and it starts being data. And the data here is the kind that should make every person who has ever studied business, marketing, or history sit down and go completely quiet. Right now, today, there are 2.4 billion people on this planet who identify as followers of Jesus Christ. 2.4 billion. That is not a fan base. That is not a community. That is nearly 1/3 of every human being alive, across every continent, every language, every culture, every economic bracket, all connected to a movement that started with 12 people in a corner of the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago. No ad budget, no algorithm, no distribution deal. Just a story that refused to stop spreading. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, but that's religion, that's different, let me show you something. The calendar, the one your phone uses, the one your bank uses, the one every government on earth operates on. It is literally divided, BC and AD, around one event, one life, one moment in history. Every time someone writes today's date, anywhere in the world, they are, whether they know it or not, referencing him. That is not influence. That is something beyond the word influence. Think about languages. Entire written languages were invented, from scratch, specifically to translate his words so that isolated people groups could read them. Missionaries didn't just cross oceans. They built alphabets. That is how valuable the message was considered to be. Worth creating a brand new language just to carry it further. Think about institutions. The oldest universities in the Western world, Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, all founded with explicit connections to Christian mission. Hospitals, orphanages, charities, entire systems of social care that the modern world takes for granted, built, originally, in his name, by people who never met him, centuries after he was gone. That is compounding. That is what it looks like when an idea is so strong it doesn't just survive generations. It builds through them. And here's the detail I want you to sit with, because this one is the most quietly devastating proof of all. The counterfeits. Right now, all over the world, there are fake pastors, false prophets, prosperity gospel scammers, and private jets. People wrapping themselves in the language of this movement to extract money from desperate people. And your first instinct is probably, see, that's proof it's corrupt. But think about it like a businessman. You only counterfeit what is real value. Nobody is out here printing fake Zimbabwean dollars from 1987. Nobody is building fake versions of a brand nobody wants. The sheer volume of imitation, the scale of people willing to fake this specific thing, is its own proof of how powerful the original is. Counterfeits don't discredit the real thing. They confirm it. Now compare all of this, honestly, genuinely compare it, to any other name on that list we threw away at the start of this video. Rockefeller's wealth? Redistributed. His companies? Broken up. His name? Known by history majors and people who watch documentaries. Mansa Musa, arguably the richest man by net worth who ever lived, his own empire is gone. The trade routes are gone. The gold is gone. His name trends occasionally on the internet and then disappears again. Every billionaire alive today, Elon, Bezos, all of them, their wealth is tied to companies. And companies get disrupted. Companies get outcompeted. Companies become MySpace. But this? 2,000 years of uninterrupted growth. No recession. No disruption. No competitor that came close. And here's what really gets me, and I mean this genuinely. If you've watched this far, and this is landing differently than you expected it to, do me a favor and subscribe. Please. Most people watching right now are not subscribed. It genuinely helps us keep making videos like this one. Just hit the button. It costs you nothing. Because we are almost at the part that ties everything together. We've seen the structure. We've seen the resource model. We've seen the collapse that became a launch. We've seen the numbers that make every other empire look small. But there's still one question left. What's the actual lesson? Because there is one. A real one. And the most successful companies in the world have been quietly stealing it for decades, whether they admit it or not. So here's the question we've been circling the whole time. What's the secret? Because there has to be one. You don't build something that outlasts every empire, every dynasty, every superpower in human history by accident. There is a principle buried inside this story. And once you see it, you will never look at business or leadership the same way again. Here it is. The most enduring empires in history were never built on products. They were built on purpose. Think about the brands that have genuinely stood the test of time. Apple doesn't sell you a phone. It sells you the belief that you are someone who thinks differently. Nike doesn't sell you a shoe. It sells you the version of yourself that doesn't quit. Disney doesn't sell you a movie ticket. It sells you the feeling that magic is real. The moment a company figures out how to make you feel like you belong to something bigger than a transaction, that's the moment it stops being a business and starts being a movement. Jesus didn't pitch salvation like a product. He didn't run ads. He didn't build a funnel. He didn't optimize a conversion rate. He embodied the mission so completely, so personally, so sacrificially, that the people around him didn't just believe in the message. They believed in him. And then they gave everything they had to carry that forward. That's not marketing. That is something marketing has been trying to replicate for centuries. And here's the part that should hit every founder, every entrepreneur, every person building something right now. He never chased scale. He served one person in front of him. Fully. Completely. And the scale took care of itself. 2,000 years worth of scale. Most of us are so obsessed with reach that we forget depth. We want millions of followers before we've genuinely changed one life. We want the big launch before we've mastered the quiet work. The greatest enterprise ever built started with 12 people and a mission so clear, so human, so undeniable that it didn't need a headquarters. It didn't need a marketing budget. It didn't need a single favorable news cycle. It just needed to be real. And realness, genuine, costly, sacrificial realness, is the one thing that no competitor can copy. The one thing that no algorithm can replace. The one thing that has always separated the movements that last from the ones that fade. So when someone asks you, who was the greatest businessman in history, you might surprise them with the answer. Or maybe the real answer is that he was never playing the business game at all. Maybe that's exactly why he won. And that, right there, is the story of the greatest enterprise ever built. No collapse. No bankruptcy filing. No successor who ran it into the ground. Just a mission. A man. And 2,000 years of unstoppable compounding. If this video made you think, even for a second, differently about what it means to build something that lasts, then share it with someone who needs to hear it. You already know who that person is. And if you are still not subscribed to King's Empire, this is your moment. Hit that button. Join the channel where we dig into the stories behind power, money, ambition, and legacy every single week. The stories they don't teach in school. The lessons hidden inside the wins and the losses. We'll see you in the next one. King's Empire. Always follow the money.